So here are 5 methods that you can use in order to control the screen time of your child. You should choose wisely the location of the computer. So you should place the computer in a space where you can also have access. You shouldn't install the computer, the device, into his room. So it should be a common space where you also go often, and from the point you enter that space, you can have access to see what happens on the screen. Of course, this is not quite easy to do because nowadays children have phones, tablets, computers, and many other devices, but you can find methods in order to control the time they spend on the screens and on the internet. For instance, at a certain point you establish a rule that at a certain hour in the evening you will stop the Wi-Fi in the house, so they will no longer have access to the internet. And maybe you can even ask them to give you the phone in the evening, so that you can make sure that they sleep quietly at night. These are some of the methods that you can use in order to control the location of the computers and the devices that your children have access to. You can also install apps on the devices that you have in the house for appropriate content. These apps will control the sites and the information that your child has got access to. This is an important method for you to make sure that your children don't visit sites that are inappropriate for their age. Related to this subject, you should talk to your child. You should inform him that there are dangers on the internet, that there are people who have a false profile, and give him some examples. Of course, you shouldn't give him some examples to shock him or to scare him or to make him think, well, this is not quite real, maybe it's from a movie. No, you should give him some examples from, I don't know, the news, or anyway something very well documented, but in a way not to shock him, but to make him aware that trusting people on the internet without being able to know them in real life is quite dangerous, and they shouldn't do that. It is much better for children to communicate on the internet with people that they know in real life, rather than to make friends with strangers that they don't know, they have never met, maybe they will never meet them, and these strangers might have false profiles and bad intentions. A third method that you can use is limiting the time your child spends online every day. According to the studies that they were made on this theme, on this subject, well, children who are under 2 years old should spend no time on screens, no time at all. On the other hand, children who are between 2 and 10 years old can spend up to 1 hour per day on the internet or on screen, and teens or young people should spend around 2 hours per day on the internet. Unfortunately, reality is totally different. Some parents who are not totally aware about the implications and the dangers um, tend to give electronic devices to young children, maybe not to those who are under 2 years old, but of course there are situations of these types as well. But from 2 years, starting from 2 years old, or 3 years old, or a little more, they might give their children electronic devices like phones, tablets to play with, and well, in reality, they don't get to control so much the time children spend on these devices. So certainly in some cases the child gets to spend far more than 1 hour on the internet, even if he's under 10 years old. And this is a bad situation because studies have shown that, as I have told you before, they get anxiety, sleep disorders, eating disorders, they have sight issues and attention disorders. They become very nervous, very agitated. So actually allowing the child to spend a lot of time on a device just in order to keep him busy, or in order to keep him quiet for you to do whatever you have to do in the house. Maybe you have to clean the house, or maybe you have to work something for your job, or maybe you work from home, you work remote, and you really need some time and space, and you need a quiet space, and you allow the child to stay on the internet in order to distract him and to keep him quiet. It's not quite a good idea. Maybe you should think of one of the alternatives that I have already given to you. A fourth solution would be finding family alternatives to the internet. This means that you should stay away from any electronic devices and find other activities that are held together by all the members of the family, like going outdoors, maybe for a walk, maybe playing a game, or communicating, or reading, whatever may imply not using electronic devices. This, or maybe you can even you know, send the child to a sports club, or to a painting club, or to a dancing club, and this way every week he will have a class at a certain point. Maybe he has to prepare for that class, maybe he likes so much that activity that at home he will paint or sing or prepare for that activity. And this way you give him alternatives, very pleasant alternatives, interesting ones, in order to keep him away as much as possible from from screens and from the internet and electronic devices. The fifth way to help your child stay away from the internet for too long is to show him that you also spend less time on the internet. For example, when you eat together and you tell him don't scroll anymore on the screen on the phone, well, you should do that as well. You should stop consulting your phone or any other electronic device in order to give him an example. So you should be an example for him, and this is very important, children do not actually learn from what we tell them, but from our example. This is the most important manner of teaching them, by giving them our own example. We show them that we don't use excessively the phone, that we don't stay too much on the internet, that we don't stay connected to the phone all the time, scrolling and searching for information. Of course, if we need to do that for our job, we can explain to them, well, this is my job, and between, well, this time and this time, I have to work for my job, and this is the reason why I stay on the internet. But otherwise, we shouldn't stay in front of them while always checking the phones, because we will be a really bad example, unfortunately.